In her past life, Fu Anning was the most dazzling woman in all of Kyoto, but she entrusted a non-human person and ended up with a ruined family. After being reborn, she vowed to make the heartless man pay the price, completely trampling the white lotus in the mud, so that her brother could see the true face of the person as soon as possible, and prepare her father. There are many princes, but since the sixth prince is ruthless, wouldn't the eighth prince, who is weak, sickly, and helpless, be better managed? Everything went according to Fu Anning's plan, but it was discovered that the eighth prince was actually the master of pretending to be a pig and eating tigers. Isn't it true that without summoning, one cannot leave the imperial tomb? Why sneak into the Marquis' mansion every 3 days or 2? Isn't it said that one is weak and sickly? What is the skill of a divine dragon that sees its head but not its tail? Isn't it saying that there is no one to rely on? What about those skilled guards? Chapter 1. Rebirth on the night of falling into the moat. You are listening at novel.Audio. Under the scorching sun, almost cooked eggs can be fried on the green bricks outside the house. But Fu Anning, lying behind a broken door, shivered coldly, and the blood flowing beneath him was like a trickle, endless. I didn't care about these things, just murmured, "I'm sorry, my daughter was wrong." Fu Anning, who was broken and unable to move, could never believe that the Fu family, known for their loyalty and bravery, would collude with foreign enemies. I didn't expect that the once affectionate pillow-side person, the new emperor elected by the Fu family, would have no nostalgia for the past and exterminate the entire Fu family. For some unknown reason, the elder brother who used to love him so much would look at her with that vicious gaze in the last moment of his life. Before waiting for Anning to ask, he passed away in front of Anning, leaving behind a sentence that made Anning feel extremely guilty. Dad is gone, and the Fu family is also gone. Are you happy? My Fu family doesn't have people like you. Yes, if it weren't for Anning's insistence on marrying Xiao Jingnan, who was still the wife of the crown prince at the time, the Fu family, who had always been neutral, wouldn't have participated in the usurpation of the throne, let alone been feared by the new emperor and ended up in the current situation. For a moment, the empress was humiliated like a dog, and the prestigious Xinguo Marquis' mansion was flooded with blood. The sky was dry, and the cold palace ignited a raging fire. 1 second, it was scorched by the raging fire, and the sorrow was greater than that of Fu Anning, who was heartbroken. The next second, the whole person felt like being thrown into cold water. The changes in the dual sky of ice and fire have moved the originally desperate person. Has someone come to save her? Father and brother are gone, and the Fu family is also gone. Who could it be? Ning Ning struggled to open her eyes. This was not a dim and narrow cold palace, but what caught her eye were the majestic and towering city walls. And she, surprisingly, is in the moat. Fu Anning moved his hands and feet, his limbs sound, and he didn't seem to have been tormented by the vicious white lotus at all. Instead, his body appeared slightly immature. Could it be that the heavenly way is sympathizing with Fu Anning, this poor woman, and giving her a chance to start over again? Before I had a chance to be happy, I unconsciously trembled and couldn't even stand steadily. I fell into the water and accidentally choked on a few mouthfuls of cold river water. I can't help but complain why the heavens didn't choose a safe place to wake her up in the deserted water. Fu Anning struggled with all his might, but could only barely expose his head, so as not to be submerged by the river. Does God want her to be reborn just to punish her? Being burned to death is not enough, do we need to experience the feeling of being drowned again? Fu Anning was unwilling, but her limbs gradually lost their strength to support her and she continued to flutter, sinking into the bottom of the river. The consciousness was particularly clear, as if someone had come. If you lose, I'll say she can't hold up a cup of tea. You picked the plums this time, someone said happily, almost jumping up to celebrate his winning bet. Master, are we really going to watch and not save us? Some people are compassionate and feel guilty, at least it's a human life. The person who was called the master seemed to be condemned and puzzled, saying, then save me. You go, that water monster is cold. The person who was still compassionate in the previous second is unwilling to go down even when encountering the cold river water in the next second, afraid of getting wet in their clothes. I don't know where to find a stick, constantly tugging at Ning Ning's sinking body, mixed with intermittent complaints. Master, why is she so stupid? She doesn't know how to pull the stick and borrow some strength. Nonsense, hurry up. If you're smart, how could someone throw you into the water? Master, why don't you give a hand by the side? This woman has eaten so much good food that she is even heavier than a pig. Upon hearing these words, Anning, who had just been pulled out of the water, wished she had fainted on the spot. The stinky man actually said that she was heavier than a pig and still a pig. Anning couldn't bear it anymore. Just as she was about to curse, the pull from the end of the stick suddenly disappeared. Not only that, but also a force pushed Anning back into the water, causing her to suck in a lot of water and her lungs to swell uncomfortable. They're not saving people, they're clearly trying to murder. Don't let yourself meet them again, otherwise you will definitely peel his skin and beat his tendons. Immediately after, footsteps rushed towards the riverbank, and many people came. Anning thought to herself, perhaps it was her father who brought people to save her. Before I could call for help, I heard someone say, Your Highness, this jade pendant belongs to the Marquis' mansion. I believe the Miss Fu's mansion is nearby. 6th Highness. Xiao Jingnan. He is that heartless and ungrateful heartless man. Anning recalled that in the previous life, Xiao Jingnan also saved Fu Anning in the cold moat. Heroes save beauty, what a touching scene that has been passed down throughout Kyoto. Your Majesty's eloquent words were drawn. Talented and beautiful, sincere and sincere, truly a perfect match made in heaven and earth. This can be regarded as the imperial decree of marriage, and it also made the Fu family the most powerful support on his way to the summit. What about the outcome? The 100-year-old mansion was destroyed in one fell swoop, and over 100 loyal and brave members of the mansion became collaborators and traitors. And her husband held the white lotus while personally feeding her abortion pills. When the medicine started to take effect, the peaceful and painful convulsions made the dog couple burst into laughter. And the white lotus seemed to feel unsatisfied, looking at the tranquility of vomiting blood, deliberately stepping on her face, and then screaming in injustice. Your Highness, this slut has dirted my concubine's dress. You must be in charge of my concubine. When Bai Lianhua cried, the new emperor couldn't bear it anymore. He became even more vicious towards Anning, killing and punishing his heart. You are not yet qualified to give birth to my bloodline, leave a sentence and lock Ning in the cold and narrow cold palace, while he embraces the white lotus and flies away. Empathetically, Fu Anning, who was already in her 60s, could clearly feel the passing of a small life in her belly. Now it seems that the drowning incident in the previous life must also be Xiao Jingnan's scheme. Before Anning could react, Xiao Jingnan's guards noticed her. Your Highness, I have found it. I have found it. The weak Anning saw Xiao Jingnan's face, which had not yet been concealed, with a determined smile. Seeing Anning struggling, she immediately changed to a worried expression, which was really disgusting. In her previous life, she was so blind that she fell in love with this kind of person. Ning Ning's hatred was too obvious, afraid that he would notice anything unusual, so he could only pretend to be unconscious. Xiao Jingnan called out a few times, but saw that Anning still had no response. The pretended deep affection immediately disappeared, and then he boldly sent the unconscious Fu Anning back to the Marquis' mansion. Although it was late at night, Xiao Jingnan made too much noise, and there were still a few people who were not afraid of death sticking their heads out of the window. Presumably, the romantic affair between the Fu family girl and the 6th prince will spread throughout Kyoto tomorrow, followed by His Majesty's marriage. Once there is a marriage relationship, it will be like a grasshopper on a rope, and everything will be powerless to change. Following the same trajectory as her previous life, does she still have to follow the same old path as her previous life? Chapter 2. Your Highness, Be careful not to damage the reputation of Anning's daughter's family. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Within the Marquis' mansion. The Marquis and his wife learned that their beloved daughter was missing, so they quickly mobilized the servants in the mansion to search for her. However, time passed, and most of the night had passed without a trace. Madame Fu was worried and worried. She was afraid that her daughter would encounter danger and wanted the Marquis to report to the government, while also fearing that her daughter's reputation would be ruined. In the double agony, washing his face with tears, he could only urge Lord Fu to mobilize the Fu family army stationed outside Kyoto to find them. After all, they were all his own people. Although the Fu family's army is a personal soldier of our Marquis' mansion, what do you think of this large-scale operation? What do you think of the Holy Emperor, and what do you think of civil and military officials? Does our Fu family want to rebel? Lord Fu has just returned from outside the city without stopping for a moment. At this moment, he is extremely tired and worried. The self-blaming lady burst into tears and said, "If Anning can't come back, I don't want to live either." Fu Anning was sent back to the Marquis' mansion when everyone was at a loss. "Marquis, madam, I happened to meet Miss Fu who had fallen into the water by the moat outside the royal palace. I have specially sent her back." Xiao Jingnan respectfully and politely said to Marquis Fu, seeing Fu Anning wake up leisurely and politely leave. As she watched the Marquis' father and mother praise him for his propriety, Anning pulled back their gaze. "Dad, Mom, I'm sorry to make you worried. It's my daughter's unfilial behavior." After speaking, he fell into the arms of the Marquis' father and whispered in a voice that only two people could hear. Anning must let his father stop the people watching the excitement along the way before dawn to prevent them from spreading unbearable rumors. The Marquis was momentarily taken aback, and then understood what he hated for preaching that iron is not steel. "You unfilial daughter, do you know how sad your mother cried? What kind of sin did she create in her past life, giving birth to something like you?" After speaking, he turned around and left without looking back. Anning knows that his father loves deeply and takes full responsibility, and he also knows that he will stop those people. She was safe, and as soon as she let go of her energy, she fell into a coma, followed by a persistent high fever. Sleepy and peaceful dreams are filled with tragic scenes from the previous life. The once insecure and pitiful White Lotus appeared in a victorious posture, holding on to Xiao Jingnan's arm. Not only did she break Ning Ning's slender hand bone, but she also showed off her strength in front of Ning Ning. "Speaking of which, you killed all members of the Fu family. If it weren't for your congratulatory letter, the father and son of the Fu family wouldn't have entered the palace so unsuspecting. 2,000 imperial guards and 500 strong crossbowmen ambushed on the inevitable path of the palace city, besieging the father and son of the Fu family. They probably didn't even understand the scene until their death. The legitimate daughter of the Marquis' mansion, who used to be the apple of the Marquis' eye, is now seen by outsiders as nothing more than a ruthless and unfilial person who hunts down her father and brothers at all costs for the benefit of her husband. Anning has been immersed in the grief of causing her parents to die, confused and unable to wake up. Beside the bed, Mrs. Fu was so anxious that she wandered around the room. "Dr. Su, please do your best to save my daughter. Please feel free to order any medicinal herbs you need. I am already at the end of my rope. I kindly request the Marquis and Madam to seek another expert, so as not to delay the girl's treatment." Dr. Su has been following Marquis Fu for many years, and his medical skills are among the best in Kyoto City. If he can't even see it well, only the doctors from Tai Hospital will be the right ones. As soon as Duke Fu left the mansion and planned to enter the palace to seek imperial edicts, he saw that the 6th Prince Xiao Jingnan was rushing to the mansion with a doctor from the imperial hospital. "Marquis, but Anning's condition has changed. The weather is cold, and I'm afraid Anning's body will be damaged. I just invited Dr. Xie from the imperial hospital." The arrival of Dr. Xie at this time is truly timely rain for the whole mansion. Marquis Fu couldn't help but look up at the 6th prince who came with Dr. Xie, feeling that he handled things steadily and had a beginning and an end. I didn't pay much attention to the title of my daughter by the sixth prince. Xiao is truly the #1 expert in Kyoto, especially his set of silver needles, which have the effect of reviving the dead. The heat of tranquility has subsided, and there are no more nightmares, and people are no longer restless. Marquis and Madame don't need to panic. The girl has caught a cold, and she may also be frightened. I will leave a prescription that can cure her illness. Marquis Fu personally sent the imperial physician Xiao, and he was greatly grateful. Xiao Jingnan, who arrived with the imperial physician in time, not to mention it. Lord Fu, who has never had too much contact with the prince, sincerely thanked him, "Your Highness, I owe you a favor today. It's just that I don't know if your Highness is willing to help you tonight. Is this Marquis Fu's favor so easy to handle? Take 2 more at once." Xiao Jingnan knew what Marquis Fu was worried about and quickly said, "Marquis, please rest assured. I swear by the royal oath that I will restrain the guards around me and keep quiet about tonight's matter." With His Highness Lu's words, what else can Marquis Fu feel uneasy about? He warmly sent His Highness Lu out of the Marquis's mansion. Xiao Jingnan, who had left the Marquis's mansion, was in a good mood. However, his close servant around him was a bit puzzled and said, "Your Highness, is this matter of tonight really not being disclosed? So, Your Highness, why don't you plan?" The servant, who had not finished speaking, was intimidated by a glance and dared not speak. "You eunuch, what do you know? The people along the way are not under my control. Besides, Miss Fu may be willing to be involved with me." Xiao Jingnan's words are meaningful and he is looking forward to what will happen soon. The next day, Wudong Garden. "Miss, you finally woke up, you scared the servant to death." Rui was ecstatic when she noticed a little movement on the bed. In her past life, Rui was such a petite girl. On the night Xiao Jingnan hunted down the Fu family, she used her thin and weak body to block Fu Anning, who was honored as the Empress Dowager, and was pierced in the heart by an arrow from the villain. Now she appears in front of her lively, everything is so beautiful, peaceful and joyful, crying. With this cry, the girl Rui was frightened and chattered away, trying to distract the young lady's attention. Fu Anning listened to the girl's chatter and silently finished drinking the medicine. Immediately, a preserved fruit was stuffed into her mouth. The sweetness of the candied fruit immediately suppressed the bitterness of traditional Chinese medicine. "Miss, now both the Marquis and Madame agree with your and the sixth prince's actions. Don't do such foolish things again in the future." The girl in front of me felt like she hadn't spoken for a few days, talking non-stop. "Miss, I'm really worried about you. This sixth prince has no authority or power, and he doesn't have a holy heart. I don't know how much you'll suffer if you marry him in the future. When did Miss I say she wanted to marry him? From now on, Anning must sternly demonstrate an attitude of drawing a clear line with the person who betrayed her." The little girl was actually frightened by a sentence from her own young lady. What she heard the most from her on weekdays was the charming sixth prince, who was a virtuous servant. What's going on now? Rui never gave up and took out the farewell letter on the Anning dressing table. The daughter of the Fu family is peaceful, and she is pleased with the sixth prince. Anning couldn't help but support her forehead. In her previous life, she was really blind. Just as she wanted Rui to destroy the suicide note, she accidentally smelled a hint of abnormality. This ink is not the common pine smoke ink used by Anning. It seems like this is another conspiracy. The continuous rainy days have receded, making it a rare sight of bright sunshine. Fu Anning's spirit has also recovered a lot, and he plans to go to the Jingxin Hall to find his father. He will slowly infiltrate the possible events in the future to let him know, so that his father can plan for the Marquis's mansion as soon as possible. I just didn't expect to meet Xiao Jingnan here. Anan, come, I have seen the sixth prince. You survived this disaster thanks to the sixth prince. When the Marquis saw his daughter approaching, he must have known the news of the sixth prince's arrival in the mansion. Xiao Jingnan spoke out perfectly, "Miss Fu, you have lost some weight, but your appetite is not good. What do you want to eat? I will go find it for you in this hall." "Thank you very much, Your Highness. If a man or woman does not receive, you will not have to bear the cost." The Marquis felt something was wrong while listening beside him. Anan is always fearless, so when has he become so conventional? Xiao Jingnan not only did not feel discouraged, but also felt that his daughter's family was shy. He took advantage of the heat and wanted to have further conversations with Anning. "Anning, are you still angry? Don't listen to others gossiping, I have nothing to do with that Shangshu Qianjin. Indeed, a while ago, the Minister of Rites received His Majesty's appreciation." For a while, the daughter of the Minister of Rites also became a hot topic in Kyoto. At that time, Anning did have a big temper outside. Is it difficult for Xiao Jingnan to think that he lost his temper because of him? Chapter 3. The eighth prince, as a legitimate puppet, is most suitable. You are listening at novelfull.audio. During that period, it was widely rumored that the Marquis' mansion in Kyoto City was about to become a thing of the past, not as promising as the Shangshu mansion. Piansheng, the daughter of the Shangshu Qianjin, was the second millennium elder who had lost everything in music, chess, calligraphy, and painting to Anning. She mocked and mocked Anning in front of her, and Anning was angry enough to argue with her. It came and went, and for some unknown reason, it became Anning's jealousy over the sixth prince's rivalry with her. "Your Highness, be cautious. It's up to you to get along with any young lady. Don't ruin the reputation of Anning's daughter's family." Xiao Jingnan was shocked. How could Anning speak to him in such a tone? Shouldn't she be filled with him now, Xiao Jingnan? How could it be even colder than the original attitude? Is it the little girl from the Fu family who noticed that her drowning was related to this hall? Impossible, it was the royal secret guards who kidnapped her out of the mansion. Even the guards of the Marquis' mansion did not notice it. How could a woman with no strength to bind a chicken with her hands detect it? Is it that suicide note that went wrong? Xiao Jingnan has a talented and extraordinary person by his side, who is skilled in this kind of psychological suggestion. He has never failed before, and even more so, those who have been immersed in the court for many years can win. Will he fail on a yellow-haired girl? The matter did not proceed as planned. After returning, Xiao Jingnan bravely recruited a confidant who had come up with this plan and said, "I can't even deal with a yellow-haired girl. What's the use of you?" After being trained for a while, his confidant couldn't help but feel worried about his future, so he would never admit his mistakes and could only find ways to shirk responsibility for the current plan. "Your Highness, could it be that the youngest daughter of the Fu family hasn't seen the suicide letter after waking up? It's not without this possibility, and besides, it's currently the time to hire people, and Xiao Jingnan won't really drive them away. Now that the best opportunity has been missed, we can only see if there are any ways to remedy it in the future." But what he didn't know was that after being reborn, Fu Anning quickly adapted to his new life and began to race against time to plan revenge. "There are many princes born to your majesty today. Since the Fu family was able to help the sixth prince ascend to the throne in the previous life, why not start over and choose someone else? Moreover, Anning knows that there is someone who is very suitable. Eighth prince. Xiao Shengchen. When the emperor's favored concubine was pregnant, the emperor was fortunate enough to have a maid in her palace, which displeased the favored concubine. Therefore, the birth of the eighth prince did not even please the emperor, and he did not even give him a name. If it weren't for the strong support of the late Empress Dowager, he might have died young. She has been weak and sickly since childhood, so the late Empress Dowager bestowed a name, birthday, on him, not according to the arrangement of this generation of princes. Perhaps the emperor refused or simply hoped that he could live. So, after the Empress Dowager passed away, he requested to be stationed at the imperial tomb, far away from Kyoto. The reason why Anning can think of this person is because after Xiao Jingnan ascended the throne in the previous life, there were rumors that the 8th prince would never leave his body with medicine all day long, afraid that time would be running out. Xiao Jingnan, for his reputation as a benevolent person, even deliberately found a warm and spring-like place for him to recuperate. The prince, who has no power, no background, and is weak and sickly, is most suitable to be a puppet. Since the Xiao royal family is heartless and unjust, why can't the Fu family, who fought alongside the Xiao family for thousands of miles, replace them? From this perspective, the 8th prince, as a legitimate puppet, is most suitable. Just as Ning Ning was thinking about how to go to the imperial tomb to meet the 8th prince, she heard her mother worry and say, "Anan, how come during these days, Wei Nyang always looks a bit sad at you? Is there anything else that's uncomfortable about you?" Anning's rebellious thoughts in her heart cannot be explained to her parents yet, so she can only shake her head. Looking at her daughter's lost and spirited appearance, Madame Fu thought to herself, did she not fall into the water and be frightened, losing her soul? This is amazing. Usually, in this situation, there is no medical treatment for medicinal stones. No wonder the doctor cannot see it, so they can only go to the White Horse Temple to offer incense and ask for a protective talisman. Madame Fu is a quick-witted person, and this is also a matter of great concern for her own daughter. Of course, it cannot be delayed. Immediately, with a few servants, a carriage hurriedly headed to the White Horse Temple. Along the way, Mrs. Fu's cold and warm greetings made Anning feel unfilial. How could she still make her mother so worried? Quickly comforting her. Halfway up the mountainside of Bema Temple, a gentle breeze drifted, blowing a corner of the curtain, and upon seeing the solemn and majestic royal tomb, a peaceful and understanding smile appeared. This White Horse Temple is really miraculous. Isn't the imperial mausoleum just within reach? After paying respects to the Buddha, Anning and his group found an excuse to sneak out, hoping to find a way to the imperial tomb. The emperor does not disappoint those who have intentions. There is indeed a small path extending to the side of the imperial tomb behind the White Horse Temple. It's just that Anning overestimated her ability. This thorny path is not something that a weak woman can traverse. Before walking far, Anning tripped over the branches on the road and rolled down with a rumbling sound. Anning suddenly lost consciousness. Watching the ball rolling down the mountain, Yi was very alert and only realized it was a woman when he walked in. I probed her breath and found out she was still alive, which is very admirable. After all, she fell from such a high place. "Master, this is the waste token of the Marquis' mansion in Zhenghua." Xiao Shengchen, who had been replaced as the master, walked into the tranquil coma. Seeing her luxurious attire, it was obvious that she was a young lady's attire. The Marquis of Zhenghua had a son and a daughter under his knee, and it is believed that this was the apple of his eye. As the sun sets in the western mountains, there is still no clear sign of tranquility, and one has been dreaming and restless. Yi looked at the unconscious Miss Fu at a loss. "It's getting late, can we take her back to the imperial tomb? If a person is thrown into this barren mountain, it may become a meal in the belly of a wild beast. After all, the Marquis' mansion of Zhenghua has made great contributions to the great Jinghua, and Miss Fu is still the treasure of Marquis Fu's heart. Master, should we take her back to the Marquis' mansion?" The answer to him was a gaze kill from Xiao Shengchen. At this moment, Xiao Shengchen felt extremely regretful. Out of curiosity, he saw something rolling down the mountain and followed Yi to see what was going on. "All right now, I picked up a hot potato that might expose myself. If you want to die, go ahead." Leaving a vicious sentence, Xiao Shengchen impatiently walked out. Yi felt that his master really didn't understand how to cherish fragrance and jade. Even a young eunuch couldn't bear it, so he had to grit his head and go up the mountain to collect herbs. Being a living horse doctor is better than waiting for death here. A dark soup made of unknown herbs was brutally infused with unconscious tranquility by the man. Cough cough. Anning's face turned purple and black from choking, and her breathing became even weaker. Shengchen looked at the person who was not right. Shouldn't it be Yi who dug up poisonous herbs? I shouldn't have done it. Last time when I was injured in the wind, my subordinate also dug this kind of herb. Yi was also puzzled, wondering why it was different from what he had imagined. As soon as he finished speaking, he was scolded by the irritable Shengchen. A gust of wind is like a horse, can it be like a person? I'm really afraid that the person I finally saved with kindness will end up like this. Shengchen secretly gave her some internal strength. I plan to throw her outside, maybe the Fu family will find her soon. With the help of the inner breath, Ning's consciousness became clear, but neither the master nor the servant noticed. Ning looked around at the environment, which was very special and familiar. Especially because there are many royal ranks enshrined here. Familiarity is due to the tranquility of the previous life. As the mother of a country, she has visited this imperial tomb and worshipped her ancestors. And the person who just gave himself internal strength is not the 8th prince who invited himself to guard the imperial tomb, who else can it be? It's not that the 8th prince is weak and sickly, where did he get his thick internal strength? The master and servant, who had been considering where to leave the unconscious woman, suddenly noticed the line of sight behind them. Chapter 4. She's gambling he dares not die together. You are listening at novel full.audio. I saw Shengchen flying over and without saying a word, he grabbed Fu Anning's neck and said fiercely. When did Miss Fu wake up? What did she eavesdrop on? Ning, whose throat was suppressed, couldn't breathe and could only desperately pull on it. His stubborn and pitiful appearance reminded Shengchen of the way he had suffocated before, and he involuntarily let go. Cough cough cough. My lungs felt like I was about to cough up, and blood was oozing from the corners of my mouth. I replied with a pitiful smile. 8th Prince, you woke up when you gave me your internal strength. Unexpectedly, she recognized herself, and Shengchen tightened his grip on Anning's neck once again. The newly exhaled air disappeared again, and this time, Anning saw a murderous aura in his eyes. He wanted to kill himself. He didn't die in the raging fire, even when submerged in the cold river water, and the messy herbs didn't die from poisoning. Unexpectedly, he was strangled to death by the person he had worked so hard to find. He is probably the most unjust soul in the underworld. Amidst the struggle, Anning felt a familiar object in her arms and trembled as she took it out. She held it up in front of the 8th prince and looked at him with death in her eyes. Shengchen was stunned when he saw the object handed to him by the woman. He quickly let go and let the person cough to death. Yi didn't understand. The young lady of the Fu family saw through the master's secret, causing great harm. Only dead people would keep their mouths shut. Just as she was about to take action, she was stopped by his master. Master, this woman is not allowed to stay. Yi was very anxious and began to regret why she had to meddle in saving her. If the master's secret were revealed, 10,000 deaths would not be enough. That object Yi is not sure what it is, but the 8th prince is very clear. It is a unique signal flare of the Marquis' mansion in Jinghua. The primary function is to seek help, and the speed of arrival is very fast. With a signal flare, within half an hour, this place will be surrounded by the people of the Fu family. She is gambling that he dare not die together. Breathing fresh air, Ning took several deep breaths before finally calming down. The 8th prince must have recognized this thing. After all, you also saved the little girl's life. Let's make a deal, how about it? No one doesn't want to live, especially Shengchen, who was fortunate enough to survive through hardships. Anning watched as night fell outside and said to Shengchen, who had just become his ally, 8th prince, could you please take me back to the White Horse Temple? I'm afraid everyone in the Marquis' mansion is in a hurry. As expected, when Anning returned to the back mountain of the White Horse Temple, the guards of the Marquis' mansion lit torches and searched. Hurry up, Miss is here. Hurry up and have someone come." The rushing guards of the Marquis' mansion, watching the peaceful scene where their clothes were torn, quickly surrounded a wall to prevent the gaze of others. "Miss, what's wrong with your leg?" The maid Rui looked at her master's appearance, especially when she couldn't even stand up, feeling very worried. "That's right, I fell off the mountain and probably sprained my foot." So it turned out that everyone in the Marquis' mansion quickly escorted Anning back to the mansion for treatment. On the way back, Mrs. Fu felt that Anning's accident this time was all her mother's fault. Anning had just experienced falling into the water and deserved to rest and recuperate in the mansion, so she insisted on bringing her out. "Mother, it's not your fault. Ann's trip to the White Horse Temple has greatly relieved her depression. You're not saying that there is no cure for her heart injury, but it's all thanks to her. You're saying that this skin injury will heal after a few days of rest." Looking at Anning's hoarse and painful grin, while also comforting herself, Mrs. Fu couldn't say anything. Can only distract her attention. Okay, you're right. Go back and see how your dad will punish you." "Mother, you can't refuse to save yourself." When Anning and his group arrived at the gate of the Marquis' mansion, a group of people had already received a message and waited at the door. The Marquis looked at the frequent injuries and obvious abnormal behavior in recent times, and didn't know what to say. He could only thank the imperial physician for careful treatment, and there should be no other ailments. After this time, he was quite honest and lay in Wutong Garden to recuperate. "Miss, the wound on your face is almost healed, and there is no trace left. Thanks to the jade skin cream sent by the palace, when I went to the front yard, I heard that it was the spiritual medicine that the sixth prince went to beg for from His Majesty." The little maid Rui handed fruit to Anning while pouring tea, and accidentally said. When Anning heard this, she sighed and said, "Xiao Jingnan really has a wicked heart. She only knows that if it involves him, it will definitely not be a good thing." As expected, the mother outside the door exclaimed in surprise, "Zhao Gonggang, are you serious about this? Madame Fu, can I still deceive you? This edict will arrive tomorrow. I will first reveal it to Madame, and Madame, please don't sell me." Zhao Gonggang whispered, seeming to want to win favor. "Of course not, thank you very much, Duke Xiao." She secretly stuffed a big purse again. What the mother said to the Duke Xiao behind her, Anning didn't hear clearly, only knowing that the mother was anxiously searching for the Marquis' father. Anning's intuition is not good, there must be something big happening, otherwise the usually steady mother wouldn't be so impolite. "Marquis, do you take Xiao Gonggang's words seriously? What should I do?" Madame Fu asked Marquis Fu anxiously in the meditation hall. Although Xiao Gonggang is not on duty in front of the emperor, he is indeed a confidant of General Manager Su, and he must be close to him in every possible way. The Marquis Fu, who received this news, analyzed it carefully. "Marquis, should we inform Anan about such a big matter as the marriage bestowed by the Holy Emperor? If she is unwilling, we can also be prepared," Mrs. Fu suggested. "Dad, Mom, what's the gift of marriage? To whom is the gift of marriage?" Anning just arrived at the door of Dad's study when she heard his parents' conversation. "I didn't want to hide this from her, after all, it's a matter of life for Anan. Now that she knows about it, she always needs to ask for her opinion. Anan, the meaning of Duke Xiao is that tomorrow the Holy See will issue an order to marry you and the sixth prince." Madame Fu looked lovingly at her daughter, who had just recovered from her serious illness and was weak, and said truthfully. Upon hearing this news, Fu Anning stumbled and almost fell. How dare Xiao Jingnan? Without a peaceful heart, is he not afraid to offend the Marquis' mansion? Later on, I thought about whether the Marquis' mansion could resist the imperial decree of marriage. As soon as the Marquis Fu saw his daughter's face turn pale, he quickly said, "Anan, if you don't want to marry the sixth prince, your father will go into the palace and refuse the marriage. How can we easily refuse the will of the Holy Spirit, or we may end up being accused of disrespecting imperial power. This decree cannot be sent to the Marquis' mansion, nor can it be openly rejected by Fu Jiaming. What way should we think of to have the emperor take it back and make it his own? As night fell, Anning called the girl Rui and asked her to leave the mansion, whispering a few words in her ear. Miss, absolutely not, let's discuss with the Marquis and Madam. The girl Rui was startled by her own girl's words and strongly opposed them. It's too late for this matter. If parents had other ways, they wouldn't have thought of resisting the decree. Besides, parents would definitely not agree to this method. Ning Ning's determination has been made, but it's better to be infamous than to follow the old path of the previous life. Will he stop in moderation in Chapter 5, or will he be caught dead in the net? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Although the little girl didn't understand her own young lady's actions, she always had to support her and go out of the mansion step by step. Anan, it's already dark now. What are you asking Rui to leave the mansion for? Marquis Fu felt strange when he saw this scene, always worried that his daughter would cause some trouble, and asked anxiously. Dad, my daughter wants to eat dim sum from Zuixanlu. Let Rui go out and buy some, and then secretly bring some wine that my father likes to drink. She was relieved. Ning Ning doesn't know how things will develop. One night's time is enough for Xiao Jingnan to react. Will he stop at a moderate pace, or will he be caught dead in the net? Because of the worst-case scenario, Ning Ning slept soundly that night. Unlike her state, when Xiao Jingnan received this news, it was like a bolt from the blue. It should be thought that a young girl with no strength to bind her hands has been missing in the desolate forest of the back mountain for a whole day. Even if her life is safe, she must not escape other bad luck. What should we do now? It was not easy to finally request the imperial decree to grant marriage, and the influence of the Fu family was within reach. Giving up would make him unwilling. But if I don't give up, I feel humiliated when I think about a prince marrying a broken shoe. If others know about it, how can one still claim the throne in the future? Yes, we must not let others know. Come, go, and clean up those people. Fu Anning, the shame you have added to this hall today will be returned to you 1,000 times and 100 times in the future. After sleeping peacefully until dawn and looking out at the calm weather, he asked, Rui, what time is it now? Miss, it's already time to eat. Marquis was drunk by you last night, Mississippi. This morning, the Deputy General took a leave on behalf of Marquis and did not go to court. Rui always felt that Miss was playing a big game and she couldn't help much, so she could only pay attention to the details and tell the truth. Good luck, when did I drink to my dad, Mississippi? It's clear that my dad is too greedy and unable to drink. Everything was under peaceful control, and my expression was much lighter, so I joked with the maid. Yes, it's because the Marquis himself is not good at drinking, and it has nothing to do with you, Mississippi. Rui quickly agreed. I can only feel relieved in my heart. I don't know who made the Marquis drink one cup after another, but when I was about to finish drinking, I saw that I was still very clear-headed and actually made the Marquis eat a pastry filled with sleeping pills. The palace issued an edict to manage Duke Su, and as soon as he arrived at Xianmen Street, he heard groups of people chatting. Originally, he didn't need to pay attention, but the words of Fu Fu's legitimate daughter were so loud. Have you heard about it? The girl from the Marquis's mansion was ruined by several mountain bandits. What's going on? That's a wealthy girl from the top of Kyoto. It's not like a few days ago when I went to the White Horse Temple to offer incense. I heard that the Fu girl was lost in the forest behind the White Horse Temple and happened to be seen by a few mountain bandits. The thief's heart grew strong and she ruined her. At that time, there were also several pilgrims present. I heard that when I first found the girl, her clothes were all tattered, and the people of the Marquis's mansion even claimed that they had fallen. That's the legitimate daughter of the Marquis's mansion. Those mountain bandits are too brave, aren't they afraid of death? I heard that the Marquis was so angry that he couldn't get up. Today, he hasn't even gone to court. This woman from the Fu family is the Marquis's lifeline. Upon hearing this news, Duke Su was so frightened that he broke into a cold sweat. Are we discussing the Fu family girl who was granted marriage by imperial decree? What should I do? What should the royal face do? His gaze signaled to the person in the dark, and he could only continue slowly and leisurely towards the Fu mansion. Bang! The top-quality blue and white porcelain tea set fell to the ground in response, splitting into pieces, and not everyone could bear the anger of the superior. Black guards, quick check. Let Lao Lu come to see me immediately, as well as the doctor who went to Fu mansion that day. As soon as Xiao Jingnan returned from the court, he was called into the palace and thought with a puzzled expression that his father, the emperor, had any benefits to offer him. He greeted him with a refreshing expression. I see my father's emperor, but I have not had the ability to share his worries for him. I deserve to die 1,000 times. This is because his political views in today's court are not as good as those of the second prince, which is a tragic situation. Later, he realized that the atmosphere inside the heart-nourishing hall was abnormal, and later realized, I don't know why Father Emperor Xian'er entered the palace. The emperor calmly watched as his beloved woman desperately gave birth to a child. From the bottom of his heart, he loved him dearly. Although he was usually stricter, he wanted him to grow up as soon as possible. If he knew about the Fu family's daughter, the emperor would not dare to continue thinking and pray for the tiny chance. Do you know about the disappearance of the Fu family daughter? Upon hearing the emperor's question, Xiao Jingnan felt a jolt in his heart. Didn't that matter be handled thoroughly? Besides, the only one who knows the truth is Fu Mansion, and it is impossible for Fu Mansion to spread this matter. The imperial officials who read the decree of marriage have left the palace, and we must not let our father the emperor know. To report to my father, it's hard to say that Fu's daughter went missing. She just had a childish temper, calmed down with the Marquis, and sneaked out to play. Later, she also went back on her own. Xiao Jingnan also tried to beautify the disappearance of Anning. Is that really the case? He truly deserves to be the 9-5 sovereigns. This scolding almost made Xiao Jingnan resist. He steadied his body slightly, took a deep breath, and said word by word, I am truly grateful to you, father. Bastard. A square inkstone flew toward Xiao Jingnan, rubbing against the corner of his eye and leaving a bloodstain before falling to the ground with a thud sound. The voice also struck Xiao Jingnan's heart. Big things are not good. Your Majesty, Dr. Xie is waiting outside the palace. Director Su saw that the atmosphere between the father and son was not right, so he quickly spoke up to seek advice. Let him in. See your Majesty, long live your Majesty. Long live your Majesty, long live your Majesty. Dr. Xie gave a formal salute, stating that he would not be allowed to leave the palace unless there were major events. Today, he unexpectedly dispatched the imperial guards. Xie Aiqing, it was you who went to see Lady Fu that day, but did you find any abnormalities? I hope you can tell the truth and dare to deceive anyone. Humph, look at how many heads you have. The emperor didn't give a good expression and threatened directly. Your Majesty, on that day, the old minister felt the pulse of Fu's daughter and found that her pulse was floating and her high fever did not subside, as if she had been startled. I then gave her an injection, and nothing else. Feeling the anger of the superior in an instant, Dr. Xie quickly changed his words and said, It's just that I noticed some abnormalities, but since I am the legitimate daughter of the Marquis, I dare not offend. Speak more carefully. When Wei Chen was giving injections to Fu's daughter, he found several scars on her neck and neck. After all, she was the legitimate daughter of the Marquis. At that time, Wei Chen looked like she had some skin injuries, so he didn't carefully examine her. After hearing these words, the emperor almost fell onto the dragon chair. General Su, who was beside him, quickly stepped forward to assist and whispered, Your Majesty, the Black Guards have returned. This is a secret report. Looking at the secret report presented and the arrowhead brought back, Emperor Longyan was furious and said, hurry up and summon the imperial officials who issued the decree. If there's not enough time, the emperor dare not think carefully, where will the royal face be? General Su comforted him in a timely manner and said, Your Majesty, that little Suzy is a clever person. I believe he will delay time for your Majesty. Finally, there is some heartwarming news. Just as I breathed a sigh of relief, I saw the person kneeling in the hall, furious. Chapter 6. Sorry, daughter admits mistakes, but never regrets. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Xiao Jingnan, I know you are coveting my position and trying to win over Fu Guoqing, but you should not abandon the royal face. You know that the disappearance of the Fu family daughter is questionable and still ask me to marry you. I keep asking you questions, but you're still deceiving me. Look at this arrowhead, who else could it be if it wasn't left by your people? You also know that marrying a woman who has been abused undermines the royal dignity. Why do you simply think that killing those mountain bandits will make everything okay? The sixth prince, Xiao Jingnan, has made some mistakes in his actions and will be exiled to the southwest starting from today. He will not return to the capital without a clear reason. Xiao Jingnan was dumbfounded. How could such a heavy punishment be imposed? If we leave Kyoto, all these years of hard work will be in vain. Father, I understand my mistake, I beg Father to spare my life. The emperor looked at the only son left behind by his beloved woman. Although he did not show any affection for him on a daily basis, it was all to protect him from being targeted by other princes. But now, he is being protected so well that he can't hold his breath. How can he take control of the world in the future? Xiao Jingnan was escorted down, but the emperor was exhausted and fell heavily to the ground. Fortunately, General Manager Su was on the side to support him. Compared to the thunderous atmosphere in the imperial palace, the people of the Duke of Zhengguo's mansion seemed calm when they heard this disappear. Only Mrs. Fu looked at her precious daughter and wiped away her tears, saying, My hard-working child, what should I do? How could such a reputation be spread? How can I find a good family in the future? As she spoke, Mrs. Fu cried and fainted again, and was escorted back to the yard by the women and maids beside her. Only Marquis Fu was left in the yard of Wudong, looking at his indifferent daughter, not like her when she was in a big event at her age. With a sigh, my daughter grew up and kept everything from her father. Anan, there is no one around now. Can you tell me the truth as a father? Dad, my daughter's soul has been traumatized again. Can we let her relax and talk to Dad another day? Is that okay? Of course, the fact cannot be told to Dad, especially since my mother has fainted several times today. If Dad finds out that these things were all done by himself, he will definitely peel his own skin. The Marquis Fu saw this shrewd yet pitiful daughter and was so angry that he wanted to curse. Anan, as a father, we all cooperated with you in this play. You should know some insider information, right? Finally, seeing An Ning's unchanging expression loosen, Lord Fu felt a strong breath and allowed you to deceive Dad. Didn't you expect that now? Do you think your father and I are known for not getting drunk after drinking 1,000 cups? Back in the days when I was eating meat and drinking until dawn at the border, how could I let you pour down a few pots of wine? I just didn't expect that Fu Haoyi, the wise and wise, was just one move away from chess and drugged by the little fox in front of him. The thought of this made me angry. At first, he really thought that this daughter wanted to talk to his old father from the bottom of his heart. Later, seeing her constantly persuading him to drink, he thought to himself that she probably wanted to intoxicate him, but that little wine was not enough for him to fill his teeth. Unexpectedly, the little fox had a second hand. Anning looked at the Marquis's father who was blowing his beard and glaring. Quickly Shunmao said, Dad, no, how dare my daughter poison my dad? It's just a little bit of sweat medicine. At this moment, even if Anning killed someone, he wouldn't say he had released 3 times the amount of an ordinary person. Is it really just a little sweating medicine? Why did I fall asleep all night and wake up with a severe headache in the morning? Thinking of that girl's unusual behavior, fearing that she wanted to prevent herself from going to court, she took the opportunity and took a leave, hoping to see what she was up to. I didn't expect her to break through the sky of Fu Mansion. How important is a girl's reputation, how dare she dare, and whether she still values her parents. Kneel down. Marquis Fu was really angry, because this bold daughter was deceiving him, and because she came up with such a terrible move that would harm the enemy by 1,000 and harm oneself by 800. Anning knelt straight, accompanied by the girl Rui, who also knelt down and begged for mercy. Marquis, it's not my fault, Mississippi. It's all my fault, it's my servant. You masters and servants are united. Do you think you can escape? Step back. Finally, Rui left with only a few steps and 3 turns at the signal of her own young lady, but her heart was pondering how to rescue her. Dad, I'm sorry. My daughter has made a mistake, but I won't regret it. I don't want my daughter to marry the 6th prince, nor do I want the Marquis' mansion and my father to be in the spotlight. Anning admitted her mistake stubbornly. Upon hearing his own daughter's words, Lord Fu pondered for a moment. Anning, have you never been close to the 6th prince? Just a while ago, you told your father that the 6th prince is benevolent and knows how to respect virtuous soldiers. Dad, the 6th prince is someone that my daughter can't see through. If he really cared about his daughter, but that day he brought her back with great fanfare and didn't care about her reputation at all. If he doesn't like his daughter, but when Fu needs help, he will appear again, always feeling like he reveals his purpose in everything. Fu Anning is preparing to gradually change his father's view of Xiao Jingnan. After all, at this time Xiao Jingnan disguised himself very well, looking like a gentleman. At night, Ning Ning lay in bed carefully sorting out the important events of her previous life, and heard a joke. Since ancient times, only women and villains have been difficult to raise, and I don't know where Lao Lu offended you. You should frame him to death like this. The 8th prince jumped down from the peaceful eaves without any pressure, guarding the rigorous Marquis' mansion. Startled, Ning Ning exclaimed, "How did you get in?" Xiao Shengchen continued to go his own way and poured tea on his own, saying, "Is it difficult? The guards of the Marquis' mansion are just like that." If Marquis Fu heard this, he would definitely turn pale. I just didn't expect that you, a little girl, have such a ruthless mind that you wouldn't even let yourself go. When he heard of her idea, Xiao Shengchen was really shocked. There was no girl who didn't care about reputation. The 8th prince never gave in too much to each other. We can count it as half a pound and 8 taels. The peaceful plan only tarnished his own reputation. In this way, the emperor would never agree to marry him, and Xiao Jingnan, who was kept in the dark, would be scolded and never be exiled. But Xiao Shengchen was found guilty of bullying the king, with all the evidence available. He was lucky enough to have saved his life. I don't know how clearly you see people's hearts, Anning exclaimed at his understanding of the emperor and Xiao Jingnan. I was also amazed by his ability to understand people's hearts. I suddenly felt that I thought he was the best prince to handle, but now it seems that he is just pretending to be a pig and eating a tiger. Does he also have a grudge against Xiao Jingnan? Chapter 7. After all, he is also a poor person. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Xiao Shengchen didn't care about what she thought in her heart, but his praise for her was not modest at all. He nodded solemnly. When it comes to guessing people's hearts, no one dares to recognize me as the first. Considering that our first collaboration achieved the expected results, I would like to express my kindness and remind you that your current mental state doesn't seem like a ruined woman. A woman who is usually abused is not someone who wants to die or live. How could there be such a calm person? When someone with a heart reacts, they will definitely show up. Even in your Marquis' mansion, you should be careful of the walls and ears. Xiao Shengchen felt it was necessary to remind him. After all, it was rare to have such a smart and powerful accomplice. Fu Anning was enlightened. His meaning was that there were spies in the Marquis' mansion. Yes, how could I fall into the moat properly? How could that fake suicide letter appear on my dressing table? But how did the spies sneak into the tightly guarded Marquis' mansion? No, Shengchen came in quietly. It can be seen that the spy is skilled, and he must still be in the Marquis' mansion today. Peace can no longer remain calm. Rui, go and invite Dad over. Mr. Fu, who was sleeping soundly, was awakened again with an angry expression on his face and said, "What's wrong with Mississippi?" Rui didn't know what Miss had in mind, but she just asked herself to call the Marquis and said that the louder the commotion, the better. She could only stutter and say, little sister she, all right, let's not talk about it. In my previous life, I did something wrong. Why did I have such an uneasy thing? Marquis Fu has never been so troubled before. When I used to lead troops to fight, I would fight until I obeyed any disobedient soldiers. Now it's my own daughter's turn. How can this petite little girl take action? Madam, she's not working hard with herself anymore. Bang dang, miss, don't smash it. Oh, my miss, be careful of your feet. As soon as Fu Houyi arrived at Wutong Garden, he saw birds flying and dogs jumping inside. He almost smashed the things in the house in peace and said, Ha, miss, I don't have the face to live anymore, why don't we just die and live to discredit our parents? The Marquis Fu was surprised by the significant difference in the changes before and after Anning, until he heard the sentence, I thought outsiders wouldn't know in the Marquis' mansion, but now everyone on the street knows about my young lady's abuse. How can I continue to be a good person in the future? Anning is reminding herself that there are spies in the mansion, which is a way to lure a snake out of a hole. Anning has been shouting and shouting all along, walking barefoot on the ground to show authenticity. Now her throat is hoarse and she is shivering with coldness. I don't know if her father has any intention. It shouldn't be. What a shrewd person was Dad in the past, how could he not see it? Is it because I have been sweating too much? Has the brain been affected? Suddenly, Ning Ning's neck and neck were hit. Before falling into a coma, Ning Ning had a delusion. This was his father's revenge for drugging him, otherwise why did he take such a heavy blow? Shengchen, who was hiding on the roof, looked at the sudden onset of tranquility and was stunned. How did this woman do it? The previous second is skilled in calculation, and the next second is foolish and crazy. Fortunately, Lord Fu reacted and with just one glance, he confessed to his confidants around him. In less than an hour, more than 10 suspicious individuals were caught, some of whom had unclean hands and feet. Among them, 2 were very special and met secretly tonight. One is the fire girl in the backyard, and the other is the waiter pouring night jasmine. It was obvious that Lord Fu also noticed something unusual, followed by a deathly silence that almost exhausted people's willpower. The 2 of them lost their balance and together, they wanted to escape. Indeed, the skills of those 2 individuals should not be underestimated. Surrounded by more than a dozen guards, they almost escaped. Shengchen, who was anxiously watching the play on the side, wanted to take action. Why do all the people in the Marquis' mansion eat plain rice? Before Shengchen could take action, he saw the action of Lord Fu pulling his bow and shooting arrows in one go, killing 2 birds with 1 arrow. The 2 of them were both shot by the arrow feathers and fell into the courtyard, dying in despair. Scared, Shengchen fled in despair, afraid that he would also become the soul of the arrow. Yi, who followed, was still amazed by Lord Fu's arrow technique and couldn't extricate himself. He was pulled away by Shengchen, and could barely avoid the passing arrow feather. Until he escaped to a safe place, Yi was still in shock. Shengchen directly slapped Yi and said, just you heartless person. I know the danger and want to run, but you're not afraid to die and applaud there. After a scolding and beating, Yi had nothing to say, only to hear the master who ran faster than a rabbit exclaim. The Marquis' mansion is really interesting. This young man is a ruthless person. I didn't expect that this loyal and honest Marquis Fu, who is admired by thousands of people, also has such cunning. At first, Marquis Fu may have been suspecting which party might have infiltrated the Marquis's mansion. Later, when he saw those two inconspicuous people, he was decisive, with good skills. I believe Marquis must have guessed who that person was. How should the people planted by the Holy Spirit today be eliminated without causing the Holy Spirit to hold grudges? This is a tricky matter, but Lord Fu handled it very well. First, let the palace guards pretend to be invincible and be beaten down one after another, making the spies think there is hope for escape, but they don't know that the farther they escape, the faster they die. Only this fool thinks that the people in the Marquis's mansion are all freeloaders. Master, are you saying that Lord Fu also discovered us? Upon hearing his analysis, Yi was startled for a moment. Why did Lord Fu let us go? Yes, why did Marquis let himself go? Is it that the Marquis is probing his own intentions and taking a look at his own details? The Marquis of Xingua, who has never been defeated on the battlefield, is truly worthy of his wisdom. It seems that the little fox of the Fu family has not yet learned the basics. How do I know? I'm not the worm in that old mischievous child's stomach, Xiao Shengchen, realizing that he might have even stripped off his underwear, said angrily. In the front courtyard of the Marquis's mansion, the lights were brightly lit. General Fu looked at the two lifeless spies on the ground and said, Marquis, this is the royal secret guard. What should we do next? These two villains dare to spread the news of the Xinmi incident in our mansion everywhere, without repentance. Since they have injured many guards in our mansion, they still want to escape and throw them directly to the mass grave. General Manager Fu understood that this was being handled as a servant of an ordinary backer. As the servants retreated, General Manager Fu cautiously asked, Marquis, are those two people on the roof? Marquis Fu is in a very bad mood now. Growing up together since childhood, his loyal emperor is now monitoring him, accompanying him like a tiger. Marquis Fu is shivering with fear. Well, in the future, the defense in the mansion should be more sophisticated, and don't let the petty people have any more opportunities to take advantage of it. Before leaving, Marquis Fu looked at the direction of Wudong Garden and found that the two men were on the roof of an inn. Today, during the day, an inn remained as usual. At night, he caused such a disturbance. Lord Fu couldn't believe that this was his foolish daughter, who had harmed 1,000 enemies and self-harmed 800, who could detect the spy coming out. Letting him go is like thanking him for his kindness, after all, he is also a pitiful person. Chapter 8. A Great Play. You are listening at novelfull.audio. It is so common for the Marquis's mansion to kill two servants. Who allowed them to spread the news about the master without any hesitation, causing Miss Fu's mental disorders? Yes, Anning has lost her daughter's innocent reputation and now has a notorious reputation for being stimulated and mentally abnormal, but these Anning don't care. What about being crazy? The Emperor's loss of two secret guards is not a big deal, after all, there will be casualties if there is a mission, as long as their identities are not exposed. Everything went as usual, except for Xiao Shengchen, who stayed in the imperial tomb and refused to go to the city to eat, drink, and have fun. If that little fox from the Fu family is easy to say, he can handle it, but that's an old fox who has been through countless battles. Last night, he suffered a disastrous defeat with just one face. Can't he afford to provoke or hide? But Xiao Shengchen didn't know that the Marquis, who couldn't afford it, was currently being entangled by a little fox. The little fox felt that the external troubles had been eradicated at this time, which was a great opportunity to change the mindset of the Marquis's father. He occasionally asked him for advice on chess skills, spoke ill of the sixth prince, or casually complained about the unfair imperial power by asking for archery skills. For half a month in a row, these tricks took turns, and the Marquis's ears could hear the cocoon. Even the most dull person could detect the abnormality of their own daughter. The Marquis put down the white chess in his hand and looked at Anning with eagle-like eyes. Anin, what do you want to say? The little fox who was seen through felt a little uneasy, but also felt that after these days of her subtle influence, his father should be able to accept it, right? Dad, do you think that your Majesty is concerned about our military power and is trying to influence our family? Besides, the sixth prince has been so attentive to the Marquis' mansion a few days ago. Now he is willing to go to that place where birds don't poop and doesn't want to have any involvement with his daughter, which is enough to show that the Xiao family is ungrateful and unjust. The Marquis looked at the person in front of him who could invert black and white, his eyelids twitching involuntarily, and he didn't want to admit that she was his daughter. What are you trying to say? Anning felt that his father was becoming increasingly unruly and that his past understanding with him had deteriorated. He could only be more straightforward. Dad, since the Xiao family is not kind, have you ever thought of replacing him? Dong. The Marquis, who has always remained calm, was truly frightened by his own daughter's thoughts. He couldn't even sit firmly on the stool and fell on a sturdy butt. Dad, are you okay? He scared Anning to death seeing the Marquis effortlessly standing up. Ning Ning took a deep breath and patted his little heart, saying, Dad, you must be careful in the future. You'll scare your daughter to death. The Marquis' hair exploded, and he gave instructions to his daughter who didn't feel at all wrong. No matter how careful I am as a father, I can't prevent you from having such a rebellious mind. From today on, you should think about your past in front of Wudong Garden. The Marquis thought to himself that his daughter might have really gone crazy. Not only did she spread rumors about her own reputation, but she also spoke such harsh words. It seems that we need to discuss with Madam and not spoil her too much. Similarly, when Lady Ho heard her husband talk about her daughter's abnormality, she was constantly on edge and couldn't let Anning out of her sight for a moment. As time passed, Madame Ho became more and more frightened. She had always been a lover of music, chess, calligraphy, and painting, and her quiet daughter was now dancing with knives and guns all day long. There were several times when she almost injured herself, but she didn't care at all. Madame Ho felt that her daughter must have been contaminated with something unclean, which led to such a drastic change in temperament. Madame Fu, who has always believed in Buddhism, felt that it was the Buddha who blamed Anning for this kind of crime. She also worried about her son who was far away from home, fearing that he would also suffer a disaster. So Lady Fu rushed to the hospital in a hurry due to illness, taking her family to the White Horse Temple to offer incense and pray for the blessings of the Buddha on the Fu family. As a beloved wife, the Marquis would certainly not object. On a sunny day, the Fu family set off neatly for the White Horse Temple in the outskirts of House Han. It is rumored that there is a Lingyin master in the White Horse Temple, who is a Taoist monk who can see through all things in the world. This is also the reason why the White Horse Temple has been thriving for so many years. However, this Lingyin master has been absent for years like idle clouds and wild cranes. As a soul reborn from a past life, Anning is really worried about being seen through by the master, but fortunately, that person is not in the temple, so Anning can go up the mountain with peace of mind. Just as soon as we arrived at the foot of the mountain, we saw a continuous stream of pilgrims. Madame Fu was very strange, as there were particularly many people coming today. Upon asking, I found out that it was the Lingyin master who had returned and was currently meditating in the temple. It was so exciting to hear from Madame Ho. Master, our family is lucky enough to turn bad luck into good. No matter how many people tried their best, they couldn't find the trace of the master. As soon as the Fu family came up the mountain, Master Lingyin came back. This is fate. The person in charge remained calm and fearful. If the master were to see that these things were all done by himself, my mother might not be able to bear them. Afterwards, Anning began to see various types of moths emerging endlessly. I'll say I'm tired, I'll say I'm hungry, and I'll fall down and chew on the mud if it weren't for the sincerity of climbing up from the foot of the mountain. Madame Fu would have directly asked the guards to carry a sedan chair to bring peace up. Madam, Annen's current situation is likely to clash with the Buddha. As parents, we can go up and beg for the same. Let Annen rest at the foot of the mountain. Yes, mother, there are many people on the mountain, and my daughter is afraid. Fu Anning, this little scammer, now speaks lies very smoothly. After peaceful and unremitting efforts, they were finally able to stay halfway up the mountain for repairs. They continued to climb the mountain, only leaving several guards to take good care of. Relaxing peacefully, I thought of resting in the nearby forest to make way for the path up the mountain. The personal maid Rui saw the situation and knew that her young lady was tired. She quickly asked the guards behind her to find some water and prepare some food. The forest behind this mountain is really lush, and there are also many bright wild fruits on the trees. The fragrant scent makes people drool. Anning looked at the plum tree 3 zhang tall in front of her, and looked at Rui beside her repeatedly, her eyes hooked. Rui frowned and said, "Miss, although I am called Rui, I cannot make you Rui now. Just think about it, let's pick it when the guards come back." Just as Anning was about to turn around, she noticed danger approaching from behind and suddenly changed her mind. "Rui, why don't you call Dad over? I really want to eat." Why did the young lady who had just been coaxed start grinding people again? It wasn't until Ning's hand tightly gripped her wrist that Rui realized it. "Alright, that slave maid will fire the signal flare now. Marquis and the others are not far from here, I believe they will arrive soon." As he spoke, he took out the signal flare unique to Fu Mansion and prepared to take off. The approaching sense of impending death instantly disappeared, replaced by a graceful and ethereal man who appeared behind Ning and spoke out. How could the two girls have come to this wilderness? Although Rui was also very scared, she still protected Ning behind her and showed a joyful expression towards the man who appeared. "Young master, my young lady is from the Marquis' mansion of Zhenghua. Now it seems that the wild fruit is very appetizing. If young master can help, my Marquis will definitely give me a heavy thank you." The man who appeared squinted his eyes and looked at the master and servant in front of him. The servant was loyal, but the master had never seen the world before. What's so delicious about wild fruits? Zhenghua Marquis' mansion. How could the daughter of Lord Fu be so timid? It's really shameful of a marquis. Rumors have it that this woman has not only been abused by others, but has also been stimulated and sometimes goes crazy. It's really a pity. Otherwise, this Marquis' mansion might have become a great help to the 6th prince. The person thought about it but didn't expect to hear a slight complaint. "Rui, why don't you call Daddy? This young master seems unwilling to help," said Anning in a low voice, standing behind Rui. The two sides remained deadlocked until the guards of the Marquis' mansion approached from afar. However, the person jumped up a tree, picked a handful of wild fruits, and placed them in Rui's hand. Before leaving, they kindly explained. "Miss, this wilderness is not safe. Let's go back earlier." Rui felt that this person was not a good person, and calmly greeted everyone in the Marquis' mansion to leave. Just what Ning didn't know, less than a quarter of an hour after they left, a person walked out from behind the dense tree. Chapter 9. Murder against the Crown Prince. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Surprisingly, it was the 6th prince, Xiao Jingnan, who was exiled to the southwest and could not return to the capital without being summoned. And the person who was picking fruits for Anning just now stood respectfully at the bottom and spoke to him. "Your Highness, you shouldn't have let them go just now. If we leak our plan, it will only cause endless trouble." Xiao Jingnan shook his head and said, "Brotherswa, didn't you see what the maid was holding? With that thing in her hand, even if we kill them, it will still cause endless trouble and not worth it. Besides, they are far apart and cannot be overheard by ordinary people, which is why he chose to discuss big plans in such a wilderness. It's just that those tattered shoes actually want to use such a good thing to attract people to pick wild fruits. What a fool." Xiao Jingnan looked around and noticed that the guards of the Marquis' mansion had all gone far away. He took off his hat and began plotting with others about whether he could return to the capital or not. Finally, there seemed to be some concern. "Brotherswa, this matter is of great significance. I wonder if second prince will lend a helping hand to this haul as agreed. What else can he do if the person in front of him cannot give him an answer? Xiao Jingnan is now in a passive position, and can only have a chance to stand out with all his might. After understanding these things, Xiao Jingnan regained his composure, put on his hat, and hurriedly left the back mountain, startling a group of birds. However, Xiao Jingnan never expected that besides the birds, there was also the yellow sparrow on the tree who heard their conspiracy. After they left, two round heads popped up from the tree, and a face full of disbelief appeared on Yi Yi's face. Master, is this sixth prince too brave to secretly return to the capital? Not only that, but also boldly negotiating near this temple, hoping to assassinate the future crown prince. Rao Yi Yi, accustomed to the strong winds and waves, was still startled. These two people have been hiding, afraid of being caught by the Marquis and afraid to go down the mountain, Xiao Shengchen and his guard Yi Yi. Xiao Shengchen, who dared not go down the mountain and naturally had no alcohol to drink, had planned to be self-sufficient and come here to pick wild fruits and go back to brew wine. However, he did not expect to see this thrilling scene one after another. A sudden chestnut hit the back of Yi Yi's head, and Xiao Shengchen moved his finger, which was numb by the branches under Yi Yi's feet. Pick your fruits, don't go back until you finish picking them. Yi Yi, who was beaten up, looked sorrowful and said, Master, with so many plums, when can one of my subordinates finish picking them all? Don't you help either. Xiao Shengchen extended his hand, which had not yet regained its blood, to show him his masterpiece. Yi Yi knew he was guilty and could only bury his head and work hard. It's not surprising for Xiao Shengchen to meet Lao Lu here. As a prince who has no power, and even the emperor's beloved prince dares to descend the mountain, why is Lao Lu so afraid? Besides, he still has a backup. However, Xiao Shengchen did not expect that the little fox from the Fu family would give him another surprise. At that time, when I was giving her internal strength, I deliberately probed her pulse. It didn't seem like a person with deep internal strength, and the maid beside her was a simple person who could even knock down a lost fragrance. But I didn't expect her to be so clever. Just now, she clearly sensed the murderous intent of Lao Lu and others before making such a reaction. Show me your self-defense weapon and clearly tell that person that if you hurt me, I won't be able to escape. She's gambling that person doesn't dare to fish to death and get caught. She won the bet again. Yi Yi looked at his master thoughtfully, thinking that he had been frequently visiting Miss Fu's chamber at night lately. That person was special to him, right? Yi Yi felt very relieved. After all, the owner was too lonely, and it was always good to have someone who was interested. Although there were other people on the mountain who could accompany him, everyone was just a martyr protecting him and felt like something was missing. Master, if Miss Fu didn't notice just now, shouldn't we help? I think you find life boring and crooked. Do you dare to move the royal and noble sons? Aren't you afraid that anyone will know about your group's existence? You should go and change the darkness to save yourself from making noise and causing me a headache. The reason why I sent out Ani at the beginning was because he was a dull person who only answered a question after asking. He was so bored that he thought about leaving the lively and talkative knight one behind. Unexpectedly, Xiao Shengchen also had a day of regret. Besides, those little foxes have the ability to escape from my hands, but they still can't deal with those two little luo. This statement is particularly arrogant and coquettish, as if Anning couldn't escape this calamity, his Xiao birthday would be shameful. Yi Yi's mind is really teasing. How could he feel that the person in front of him is willing to meddle? I could have watched as the black guards kidnapped Miss Fu from the Marquis' mansion and threw her into the cold moat, and then watched her struggle to the death, without any inner turmoil. Yes, on the night Fu Anning had an accident, the truth happened to be seen by the servant Xiao Shengchen who had slipped down the mountain. At that time, Yi Yi sighed and said, the Marquis has been loyal to His Majesty for most of his life, but in the end, this precious daughter will still be used by His Majesty. It's really pitiful. And his heartless master saw the whole process and said it was really boring, so he patted his butt and left. The tragic experience of Miss Emotional Fu's family was just a scene in his master's heart, with a hint of disgust. Clean up what's on your mind, otherwise you'll look good, Xiao Shengchen warned fiercely. The knight was startled. How did the master know that he was speaking ill of him in his heart? Could it be that the master's skills have become so superb? Yes, yes, the master is the kindest, the resilient and resilient Yi immediately flattered. The response to Yi was that he had a sour autumn wild fruit stuffed into his mouth and was not allowed to spit it out. On the way back, Rui's palms were sweating profusely, which was a close call. If it weren't for the lady's reminder, she would have almost confessed it there. That person looks like a scholar with a graceful demeanor. Why is his mind so malicious that he always wants to harm people's lives? Seeing that my young lady has been silent since she returned from there, I'm sure she was quite scared. It seems that I need a maid with excellent martial arts skills by her side. Otherwise, I wonder if I'll have such good luck next time I encounter such a situation. After seeing Zhuo Li appear, Anning fell into memories of the previous life. Zhuo Li was the illegitimate son of the current left prime minister, and his birth mother was the childhood sweetheart of the left prime minister. He was disliked by the left lady and often bullied. However, the left prime minister was only able to make decisions for them because of her family background, so he dared not make decisions for them. However, Zhuo Li's outstanding talent demonstrated in his childhood was appreciated by His Majesty, and he even specifically reminded the Prime Minister to cultivate himself well. At this point, Zhuo Lizai was taken seriously by the Prime Minister's office. So gradually, when outsiders talk about the young master of the Prime Minister's mansion, the first thing that comes to mind is Zhuo Li, which has a tendency to compare the legitimate sons of the Prime Minister. This is such a great opportunity, but Zhuo Li did not enter the court as an official. Instead, he enjoyed wandering around and making friends with martial arts heroes, earning a good reputation as a worldly young master. If it weren't for the peaceful revival of his life, he would have been deceived by his false image of being indifferent to fame and fortune. Chapter 10. Xiao Shengchen, you traitor. You are listening at novel-full.audio. In the previous life, Zhuo Li was the right-hand man beside Xiao Jingnan. Now, wandering around is just to make connections for Xiao Jingnan and prepare for his future fortune. After multiple contacts with him, Anning felt that this person was unpredictable and looked down on him. However, because he was Xiao Jingnan's confidant, she had to endure several times. In the end, he couldn't bear it anymore and had conflicts with him several times. He must have put in a lot of effort in dealing with the Fu family in his previous life. Anning sneered and said, "In this lifetime, I want to see how this worldly young master used the reputation of the Prime Minister's office to win the hearts of the sixth prince and stab the second prince with the bloodline of the left family. If the second prince finds out that he is secretly using the power of the Prime Minister's office to support the sixth prince, I wonder if he can still have a way to survive." Xiao Shengchen was not interested in Zhuo Li at all, but it was this big secret he accidentally heard that made him so excited that he couldn't sleep at night. As the saying goes, being happy alone is not as good as being happy with others. Of course, if you want to share it with someone, you will immediately think of the little fox who is full of bad luck and united with you. Although I still have lingering palpitations about Marquis Fu, I console myself in my heart. It has been so long now, and Marquis has so many things to do every day. I don't have time to stare at this idle person like me, right? Xiao Shengchen, who had just built a psychological defense line, felt into Wudong Garden by night, and just stepped in, he heard a shout. Who dares to break into the Marquis' mansion without permission? Upon hearing the sound, Rui quickly ran over to protect Anning and said, "Miss, be careful, there is an assassin." Just when Rui said these words, she didn't notice that the bed curtain of her young lady's boudoir had just been lowered, and the black corner of her clothes was still exposed outside. Before she had time to comfort her, she heard the voice of the guard outside. "First Lady, I saw someone running into Wudong Garden, but there was no trace anywhere else. I was afraid that the villain would hide in your boudoir. This means that if you want to search, tranquility cannot be stopped. As our own young lady, the guards who came to search were all respectful and didn't dare to act recklessly. They stood in front of the peaceful big bed, looking embarrassed. Search it, it doesn't match with reason. Don't search, just in case. The leading guard looked at Anning and said, "Miss, could you please lift the bed curtain?" This situation cannot be refused, and Anning can only nervously approach and slowly lift the window curtain. Good guy, that was a false alarm. It was empty inside, with no trace of any criminals. "Miss, I have surprised you. Please rest carefully, and I will wait for you and others in the courtyard." Along with Rui, the girl was also sent out by Anning. The room returned to quietness, and Anning quickly checked the bedding on the bed. Just now, she had hidden someone under the blanket, right under her nose. Where did the person go? Don't look for it. I didn't get caught by your guards, but you're almost stepping on me and breaking your hand, said Birthday, who was dressed in a nightgown, grimacing as he crawled out from under the bed holding up his stiff 3 fingers. He complained of tranquility. It turned out that Anning accidentally stepped on the bed curtain while lifting it. Anning knew she was wrong and quickly poured tea to apologize. Do you really think that my Marquis' mansion allows you to come and go freely? The Marquis' face was even more disdainful. However, what are you doing here? Seeing his last reminder to the Marquis' mansion, apart from 2 spies, and Ning dared not be careless. Xiao Jingnan has returned to the capital. The expression on his Birthday's face was as plain as saying, "The sunshine is really good today," unaware that he was talking about a big secret. What? In less than half a year, he dares to return to Beijing without authorization. Anning was shocked. How did Xiao Jingnan dare? Moreover, he seems to be conspiring with the second prince. Xiao Shengchen once again released a heavyweight message. Are you saying that the left third young master acted as a matchmaker and bridge between him and the second prince? After being shocked, Ning carefully recalled yesterday's encounter with Left Li. The sixth prince was exiled, and the strategist Zuo Li naturally wanted to find ways to bring him back openly. But what leverage does he have to make the second prince agree? The crown prince, Xiao Shengchen reminded in a timely manner. I see, the biggest problem for the second prince now is that the crown prince has not made any mistakes, and he sits firmly in his position. Does the sixth prince have a way? You must know how they conspired. Did you let me stop them? I don't know. Xiao Shengchen was rarely uncomfortable. This woman really thinks of herself as a god. How could she know such a confidential matter? I don't know. Why are you telling me? Ning stopped working. What's going on with this person? It's appetizing. Isn't this thinking that the little fox is full of bad water and can probably come up with some malicious methods? Don't say, Anning really has a way to make the crown prince step down. In the previous life, Xiao Jingnan, who was devoted to assisting the Fu family, also encountered this problem. And Ning came up with a trick. He had the staff of the Yi Shangxi secretly send a set of dragon robes to the crown prince's mansion, and also had someone send a large dragon pearl to make a crown. What, do you have a way? Xiao Shengchen looked at her lost in thought and asked curiously. The crown prince has a unique advantage. If you want to deal with him, you cannot confront him head-on, but you don't know how the second prince and his team plan to take action. It is obvious that Xiao Shengchen is not curious at all about how they will deal with the crown prince. In contrast, he is more curious about what method the little fox in front of him thinks of. Watching such a studious person, Ning rarely showed off. If the crown prince doesn't make a mistake, can't he still frame a crime? What is the most taboo about the emperor's healthy body? The simplest way to make the emperor suspicious is to search for sacred objects, such as the dragon robe, from the crown prince's mansion. Xiao Shengchen, who was drinking tea, almost choked himself to death. The woman spoke so easily about such a heinous act. Ah, where did you hear the news? Anning was a bit curious, his news network was so powerful. The small forest behind the mountain. Xiao Shengchen continued to cherish his words like gold. Upon hearing this, Ning sensed the scent and said with uncertainty, behind the White Horse Temple. Under the affirmative gaze of Xiao Shengchen, Anning exploded. You Xiao Shengchen, you're so desperate. Can we still have fun playing together? This woman's face changes faster than flipping through a book. Xiao Shengchen quickly covered her mouth and didn't let her speak. This is the Marquis' mansion, and she is not afraid of attracting guards outside the courtyard, she is also afraid of it. My little ancestor, please don't shout anymore. He has witnessed the archery technique of the Marquis with his own eyes. If he were to know that he broke into his daughter's chamber at night, he might not be able to leave. Under the peaceful compromise, Xiao Shengchen slowly let go of his hand. As soon as he breathed a sigh of relief, he saw the woman quickly open the door and shout. Someone, there's an assassin. There has never been such a thrilling escape before. The first thing that comes to mind is hijacking the culprit in front of me. Then, thinking about how this would lead to a faster death, I give up. Xiao Shengchen, who boasted of his excellent lightness skills, had no way to escape. The large net that fell from the sky tightly bound him, and he saw the head of the guard coming to remove his mask. Damn it, after getting to know Little Fox for a while, every time he comes to the Marquis' mansion, Xiao Shengchen forgets about changing his appearance. If his true appearance is revealed, the consequences will be unimaginable.